I didn't track my money because I was broke. I tracked it because something didn't make sense. Every month, I earned enough. Not crazy money, not struggling either. Just enough that I shouldn't feel stressed. And yet somehow, by the end of the month, there was always this quiet pressure sitting in the background. Like something was off, but I couldn't prove it. And that's the frustrating part, right? When nothing is obviously wrong, but something still feels heavy. So I did something most people avoid. For 30 days, I tracked every single rupee I spent. Not roughly, not I think I spent this much. Every single transaction. Even the ones I normally wouldn't think twice about. And what I found wasn't a spending problem. It was something much harder to face. Because it had nothing to do with money and everything to do with how I was living. Most people think money problems come from big mistakes. A bad investment, a huge purchase, a low salary. Something obvious. Something you can point at and say, that's where it went wrong. But for most people, it's not like that. It's much quieter. We don't lose control of money in one big moment. We lose it in small, forgettable decisions that never feel important enough to question. And because they don't feel important, we never stop to look at them properly. You grab coffee because it's part of your routine. You order food because you're too tired to cook. You buy something small because it gives you a quick boost. None of this feels like a problem. It feels normal. But that's exactly where the issue is. Normal doesn't mean intentional, and most of us confuse the two. We think this is just how life works. Without realizing, we've stopped choosing. We've started drifting. And when you drift long enough, you end up somewhere you didn't plan to be. That's where I was. Not reckless, not careless, just unaware.
The first few days of tracking felt almost pointless. I'd log small things and think, this isn't going to change anything. A snack, a ride, a quick online purchase. Everything felt harmless. And honestly, it was. Individually, none of it mattered. But around day 5, something shifted. Not in my bank balance, in my attention. I started noticing how often I spent money without actually making a conscious decision. And that realization stayed with me, because I always believed I was in control of my money. But what I saw was different. Most of my spending wasn't intentional. It was automatic. You know that feeling when you open a food app without even thinking? Or when you tap your card and don't even register the amount? That's autopilot. And autopilot feels easy, but it comes at a cost. Because when decisions become automatic, you stop evaluating them. You stop asking, do I really want this? You just follow the path of least resistance, and money quietly follows that path with you. By the end of the first week, I noticed something uncomfortable. It wasn't how much I was spending, it was how often. There was always a reason. I'm tired. I had a long day. I deserve something. And those reasons weren't wrong. That's what made it tricky. Because I wasn't making irrational decisions, I was making emotionally justified ones. And that's a big difference. Because emotional decisions don't feel like mistakes. They feel like relief. And that's why they repeat. Around day 8 or 9, I started seeing patterns in my behavior. Not just what I was buying, but why. Late evenings were the worst. After work, when my energy dropped, my spending went up. That's when I ordered food. That's when I made random purchases. That's when I stopped thinking clearly. And it made me realize something important. Discipline isn't constant. It fluctuates. And if most of your financial decisions happen when your discipline is low, you're setting yourself up without even realizing it. That's not a money problem. That's a timing problem. Then came something I genuinely didn't expect. Subscriptions. Not the big, obvious ones, the quiet ones. Things I had completely forgotten about. A service I signed up for months ago. An app I used once and never canceled. A membership that just kept charging. Individually, they looked insignificant, but when I added them up, it was uncomfortable. Because this wasn't active spending, this was passive leakage, money leaving without any decision attached to it. And that's dangerous, because you don't feel it happening, you only feel the result at the end of the month. By the middle of the month, something shifted emotionally. At first, I was curious, then I was surprised. Then I felt exposed, because this wasn't just about numbers anymore. It was about patterns, about habits I never questioned, about how often I chose convenience over intention, and how easily I justified it. Money had become a reflection of my behavior, and behavior is harder to change than numbers. Around day 20, I realized something had to change. Not my income, not my budget, my thinking. Because the question I had always used wasn't helping. Can I afford this? That question sounds responsible, but it's actually very limited. Because you can afford a lot of things and still feel stuck. So I replaced it with something more uncomfortable. Is this aligned with how I want my life to feel? That question changes everything. Because now it's not about money, it's about direction. That late-night food order? It's not just about price anymore. It's about whether I'm choosing comfort intentionally or reacting to exhaustion. That random purchase? It's not about affordability. It's about whether it adds something meaningful or just fills a temporary gap. And here's what surprised me the most. I didn't feel restricted. I felt aware, because I wasn't trying to eliminate spending. I was trying to understand it. And once you understand something, you don't need extreme discipline. You naturally start making better decisions. Not perfect ones, better ones. Some spending still felt good, even after tracking it. And that's important, because the goal isn't to remove enjoyment, it's to remove unconscious behavior. And those are two very different things. If you're thinking about doing this yourself, you don't need a perfect system. You don't need an app. You don't need to overthink it. Just start noticing. Write things down for a few days. Even that alone will change how you think. Not because you're forcing yourself, but because you're paying attention. And attention is powerful. You'll start to see patterns. When you spend the most, why you spend, what triggers it. And once you see those patterns, small adjustments become easier. Not dramatic changes, just small pauses. Maybe you wait 5 minutes before buying something. Maybe you question a purchase instead of automatically justifying it. Maybe you realize some habits aren't actually giving you what you thought they were. And slowly, things start to shift. Not because you became more disciplined, but because you became more aware. And awareness doesn't feel like pressure. It feels like clarity. At the end of those 30 days, I didn't become perfect with money. I still spend on things I don't need sometimes. I still have days where convenience wins. But now I see it. And that changes everything. Because once you see your patterns clearly, money stops feeling confusing. It stops feeling out of control. It becomes something you understand, something you can adjust, something you can shape over time, without stress, without extremes, just small, honest decisions, repeated consistently. And honestly, that's enough. Because this isn't about becoming perfect, it's about becoming aware. And awareness is where real control begins. If this made you pause for even a second, that means you're starting to see things differently. And that's exactly what we do here on Wealthvolt. We don't chase hype. We break things down simply and honestly. So if you're into that kind of thinking, subscribe to the channel. Drop a like if this felt real to you. And tell me in the comments, what's one thing you know you spend on without thinking? I read every single one. I'm Mike, and I'll see you in the next one.